Onder Prescription with Dr. Bob Onder.
I'm Dr. Bob Onder. In October, I warned you how your retirement plan may be promoting the woke agenda, that the big investment firms like BlackRock and State Street were using your money to vote your proxy shares to further woke investment policy known as ESG, environmental and social governance, on economic issues like so-called green energy, on social issues like race and gender activism. Fortunately, just last week, Vanguard, the largest mutual fund firm in the country, has stopped playing this game. Vanguard pulled out of a goofy green energy scheme known as Net Zero Asset Managers Pledge. This was undoubtedly, at least in part, due to pressure from attorneys general, including Missouri's Eric Schmidt, telling the companies that net zero violated their fiduciary duty to investors. Time for other investment companies to follow suit so that your retirement dollars are invested for your benefit, not that of the woke left. I'm Dr. Bob, and that's my prescription.
Find more Dr. Bob Onder at bobondermo.com. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You know, Kimberly Gardner doesn't seem to like following the rules, and on Wednesday's program, we're going to hear from one of the lawyers who's actually holding her accountable.
Morning starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. The latest news.
President Trump was wrong to give a white nationalist, an anti-Semite, and a Holocaust denier a seat at the table.
Severe start to the flu season.
The news you need to know.
The war in Ukraine is far from over.
Riot police cracking down across China.
From Shanghai to Beijing, the Chinese are fed up.
And the place to talk about it.
You talk about these things. Keep doing it. We thank you.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
I'm Susie Moore, and this is More to the Point. We all know that feeling of vindication, when something you've been telling or warning others about for a while actually proves true. The more resistance it was met with, the deeper the gratification when you can turn to the most ardent naysayers and declare, "I told you so." The release of the Twitter files has thus far confirmed that the thumb was indeed on the scale for the left when it came to content moderation. Shadow banning and blacklisting of conservative accounts was, in fact, a thing, and the effort to ban President Trump from the platform followed an inconsistent course at best. These were all long suspected by objective observers of the site's evolution and its increasingly prominent role in politics and media, even while leaders and pundits in those arenas consistently clucked at such as the stuff of tinfoil hats. So these revelations are an epic helping of "I told you so" served up on a platter of schadenfreude, and as such should be utterly delicious. Yet they're not, because they confirm the worst about fellow Americans to whom we've ceded far too much power. That in their view, the ends justify the means, and the foundational framework upon which we've built our country and way of life is expendable. And that leaves a very bitter taste.
Susie Moore is Deputy Managing Editor for RedState.com. For more to the point and everything Susie Moore, log on to RedState.com. Follow Susie on Twitter at SmoozyQ and keep listening to 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Really happening
This week on News Talk STL.
The dictatorial lockdown we're seeing in China, they're still welding Chinese people into their apartments.
News, analysis, opinion.
We support the right of people everywhere to peacefully protest.
If you think there's high costs of goods right now, wait until there's a rail strike.
The Respect for Marriage Act to pass that vote in the Senate.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Wake up and smell the coffee.
And always streaming at newstalkstl.com. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It's Tuesday, December 13th, and I'm obviously not Tim or Chris. This is Susie Moore. I am subbing in for Tim today because he is off on assignment out in the wilderness, I think, in the blizzard. Meanwhile, our good friend Chris Arps is with us, but he is on remote because he is in sunny Florida. Is that right, Chris?
That is correct. Susie, hold on a minute. Becky, can you turn the air conditioner down? It's kind of hot in here.
Oh, now you're just rubbing it in. That's terrible.
I'm sorry. It's only 83 degrees today, so it's a little cooler than yesterday.
Well, let me tell you what you were missing out on. Here in St. Louis, it is 45 degrees and rainy and dreary, and I'm sure you're sad that you're not part of that.
I'm very sad because you know how I am with cloudy weather. I got that seasonal affective disorder thing, so I'd be probably ready to jump off a bridge if I wasn't down here.
We might all be benefiting by the fact that you're joining us from afar, you know, and I miss seeing you face to face, but I am sure that we're going to have fun and have a great show.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, we've got some great guests coming up today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. At 4:07, we've got Doug Cantor. He's with the National Association of Convenience Stores. He's the general counsel. We're going to talk about that article, Susie, that I wrote for Red State about credit card swipe fees and how that is adding up to thousands of dollars of extra fees to Americans every year. And then at 4:22, of course, we'll have David Stokes from the, I almost said Heritage Foundation, from the Show Me Institute, Director of Municipal Policy. And we'll talk to Dave about all things Show Me Institute.
Can't wait to hear what he has to say. And, you know, we also have another guest coming up at 5:25. Yeah.
Oh, and that's my colleague. Go ahead. You introduce him.
Jeff Charles of Red State.
Colleague.
Our colleague. Jeff Charles of Red State is going to join us and talk about all this, the latest, the Twitter files and the fallout of that, because he's been covering that quite extensively. So I figured it'd be good to have Jeff on and us to have a little confab with him about all the goings on there.
Yeah, because it's fascinating seeing what the previous owners of Twitter were up to, basically censoring our speech. And God bless Elon Musk, because he is really, you know, they call Twitter the town hall for America, and we know that it's been censored all these years, and it's, you know, it's nice to see it opening up. I thought people were kind of worshiping Elon a little too much, but as more and more of this stuff leaks out, Susie, I'm like, praise him.
Well, definitely praise what he's doing. You know, he's a human just like anybody else, and flawed just like anybody else. But we do appreciate the fact that he's a very well-to-do human. Although I saw another headline today that said, "Oh, he's no longer the richest man." They keep doing that because you know that fluctuates.
Well, who is it now?
I don't know.
Carlos Slim?
No.
That's a businessman down in Mexico.
I thought that was a joke.
He's always like either one or two or three. He's always up near the top.
And the thing is, that kind of changes on a day-to-day basis depending on how the markets are going and what their various investments are. So it's one of those things where now the media, the corporate media is like shouting it from the rooftops. Oh, he's not the richest man anymore. Well, okay, he's the second richest right now, and he's going to be the richest again tomorrow. So let's get over that.
And he may not be the richest man today, but he's got probably the most powerful voice.
Right now,
of any
sure
wealthy
does.
man.
And there are people who are not pleased about that. So that's going to be a great conversation with Jeff, no doubt.
It will. You know, Susie, I'm down here for our biannual meeting. You know, I'm involved with Americans for Citizen Voting. And, you know, we had a couple of victories here recently, Louisiana and Ohio. And we have a biannual meeting down here in Florida, Restoring America's Elections. They're the PAC that funds a myriad of groups. One of them is the Dillon Law Group, and Harmeet Dillon. I know you know who she is.
I sure do.
She is a committee woman from California, and she has thrown her hat in the ring to be the next RNC chair. And she is here. I've met with her, talked with her, tried to get her on the show today, but she's on a plane heading home. But we will try to get her on at the end of the week. And there's momentum, Susie, for her campaign. I saw a report the other day, I think it was yesterday, that are like, well, Ronna McDaniel has 108 out of the 168 members are committed to her, blah, blah, blah. But within that story, they said, though, when you have secret ballots and the RNC general, whatever they call it, are known that when they get behind doors to the secret ballot, they vote for someone else. Well, encouraging, very encouraging. Harmeet said that there were 2 or 3 state parties that had rescinded their support of Harmeet, and she may pull this thing off.
You never know. I mean, the nice thing about it, too, is that it's going to be decided by January. So this isn't something that's going to drag out forever and ever. But yes, I think that there may be a number of people who have vocally initially voiced support for McDaniel, but they may be kind of hedging their bets and waiting to see how things are going to break. Definitely there's some momentum on Harmeet's side. I don't think that Mike Lindell is really going to pick up a whole lot of the support, but God bless him for trying. But
Exactly.
we're seeing, and obviously we at Red State are familiar with Harmeet. She represented Jennifer Van Laar, defended her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, with regard to the Katie Hill lawsuit.
All right.
And so they're good friends and acquaintances, and we definitely have been writing about it at Red State. And I think there's a lot of people who feel like it's maybe time for a change.
She's a dynamic leader that we need. She's a very confident lady when you meet her. She passed out a little election card, I guess, to all of us at the meeting to gather support for her. And I was really surprised. In her about section, she's been a member of the RNC for only 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a couple of more years remaining on her term. And she said she started as a volunteer, and she worked her way up to the party ranks to vice chair of the California party. And now she may potentially be the next chair of the Republican National Committee, hopefully. I'm throwing my support behind her.
She is tenacious, and I would not want to get on Harmeet's bad side. I think she knows how to stand strong.
Yeah. I like her a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, I think we're probably coming up on a break, so we'll do that, and then when we come back, we'll have more to chat about before we get to our guests. So
yeah, let's do that.
Stay tuned, folks. You're listening to News Talk STL 101.9, 94.1 FM.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.org. An accident westbound 64 before Kings Highway blocking at least the left lane. Downtown on westbound 70 before the Museo Veterans Bridge. An earlier crash has been cleared from the two right lanes. Some residual delays remain. Northbound 270 at the Clayton Road overpass, multi-vehicle accident blocking the two right lanes. Westbound 30 at West Watson, an injury accident was blocking all lanes. At least the right lane remains closed. A crash reported on Highway 109 near Eureka High School, and an accident northbound US 67 at Meyer Road. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's place to talk.
The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Well, folks, we're heading into the winter months, and your air and your water systems in your home and your small business, they need care too as we head into the winter months. You want to make sure you have clean air. You want to make sure you have lots of plentiful, pure water, because even though it's wintertime, our bodies still need lots of water. A great service for that, of course, is our good friends Everett Jones and the folks at Jones Air and Water. What do? They simply specialize in the best air and water treatment products and services to enhance easy living in your home or small business. Everett's got two great specials this month. For your air, the whole home humidifiers takes out that static in the air, makes your skin not feel as dry. You'll breathe better. You'll feel better when your home has a as a humidifier, a whole home humidifier installed by Jones Air and Water. The Hydrotech HTO system as well removes all that nasty hardness, improves the taste, and removes those horrible odors from all of us who are on that chlorinated hard municipal water here in the St. Louis metro area. They've been in business for over 25 years, a multitude of 5-star ratings from the BBB and lots of social media platforms. 636-899-1040, 24/7, joneswater.com. That's joneswater.com.
Columbo here for Eggers Heating and Air Conditioning. Christine and I trust our home with Eggers because at Eggers, customer satisfaction is the #1 priority. And as you know, St. Louis winters are too cold and unpredictable to not be prepared for. So if your furnace isn't keeping your family warm and comfortable, don't wait and risk the problem getting worse. Whether it's time for repairs or replacement, Eggers has you covered with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Eggers now at 636-242-6515 or at callaggers.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Welcome back. This is the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on News Talk STL. I'm Susie Moore sitting in for Tim Jones today, and Chris Arps is here as well. And we've got an action-packed show for you today. Chris, you and I were talking off air. You've got some interesting stuff you want to talk about somebody with important initials.
Yes, SBF. Susie and Stell, I'm a proud conservative. Republican, have been all my adult life. And a lot of the things that the left tries to say about our country and society and things, I'm like, I poo-poo it. That's BS. One of those was white privilege. I'm like, there's a history of racism in this country, of course, but we've come a long way from that. There are plenty of opportunities for African Americans, minorities, women in this country. But I got to tell you, recently, I believe there is a such thing as white privilege now.
Now, what makes you say that?
because Sam Bankman-Fried, who has been what FTX collapsed about a month ago?
Yeah, several weeks ago. Yeah.
And he's doing interviews that his attorneys are probably telling him not to do. And people are wondering, when is this guy going to get arrested? I mean, he's giving you all of the ammunition that you need. Finally today, Sam Bankman-Fried was arrested today. But here's what I find very curious, Susie. He was scheduled to testify today in front of a hearing. Why do you think they had him arrested and he's not allowing him to testify before this hearing? My conspiratorial tinfoil hat is vibrating.
Chris, I'm not so sure that I buy into that. And this is why I say that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was detained yesterday by the Bahamian authorities. That's right. He was hanging out in the Bahamas, kicking up his heels, explaining to everybody how sorry he was. He stole all their millions. Yeah. And but he was detained by Bahamian authorities, and he will be being extradited back to the U.S. And the DOJ announced the charges today, and they're talking about him having paid like millions in campaign donations and fraud or bad, improper campaign donations. There's a lot there. That hearing was scheduled, and then he had already said he wasn't going to attend it because he was overbooked. And I've got that in air quotes. It's like, Mr. On the Lam, you're overbooked, are you? Now he's going to be booked.
But I read also, and I'm not disputing that, but I read also his testimony that he was going to give today. Reuters reported it. His first line in the hearing, he was going to say, "I effed up."
Yeah,
that's what he was supposed to testify to today.
So they brought in the guy who's the current CEO now of FTX, and he testified. And actually, Maxine Waters tried to run cover for him and cut off the Republicans from questioning him, but then she got reminded that she needed to give them their fair chance too. So I don't think she liked that very much.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's going to face justice in the criminal system, and to me, that has more bite to it ultimately than a congressional hearing does.
I got to play devil's advocate though. I'm just saying, brother man would have done something like this. He would have been in jail as soon as FTX collapsed. They would have came to his door with the handcuffs, arresting him. The fact that this kid was in the Bahamas for 3 weeks. Now, I don't know the law, the process. Maybe it takes time to do the extradition and all of that. I don't know. But I mean, you really the black comedians are going to have a field day with this in their coming routines.
And that's
Trust
fair.
me.
That's fair. I do think that what you're looking at is somebody who's got wealth privilege and connection privilege. And yes, he is white, but I mean, the guy was, very well to do and connected to a lot of very well to do and powerful people. So was he getting a lot of slack cut? You bet it. But they're still prosecuting him. So there's at least that to at least take some solace from, right?
I mean, yeah, it does. I mean, what was Madoff's total that he stole?
Boy,
was
I
it
don't know.
50 billion like this guy?
No, but inflation.
Oh yeah, I forgot it.
Adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation. But yeah, I saw that this morning. And I was like, finally. And then I saw that he was supposed to, testify this morning too, and that didn't happen. So I don't know, Susie. It's just, is this justice? Do you think he'll do time?
I think so, and the reason I say that, and that's just a gut feeling. I mean, I haven't analyzed it with a legal hat on, but and this is not my area of expertise anyway, so I would be kind of swimming in the the laws if I were trying to analyze it that way. But I do think so, and the reason why is because they've come out. The DOJ has been kind of upfront, real quick about what they're doing, and instead of slow walking it, I mean, I know yes, it's been a couple of weeks, but a couple of weeks, not a couple of years. It sounds to me like he's going to be a pretty convenient fall guy because he he didn't have any safeguards in place whatsoever. Yeah. He was dealing with millions and millions and was like not record keeping. So it's kind of an easy target, but he's also an easy fall guy.
Susie, is I effed up an excuse?
No, it's an acknowledgement.
Is that what it is in the law? It's an acknowledgement more than an excuse. I love that.
Right.
I love that.
I actually used to have this quote in a bio of mine on a social media site way back in the day when they weren't really social media sites, and it was "I F up all the time. I just recover nicely."
That story of my life. I think I had to have a T-shirt made with that.
Yeah.
Chris, I got to ask you this, and I mean this in all seriousness, since you mentioned white privilege. Would it be fair to say that he's benefiting from Democratic white privilege?
I think you could probably throw that in as well. And, what we've seen with the deep state and the White House colluding with Justice Department, the government and all that, I would not be surprised if somehow the White House, through Maxine Waters, who she's shady as well. She had a deal with, she profited off a foreign bank that her husband owned, and there was a lot of shady stuff going around in that. But I would not be surprised if they through interference for him, didn't want him testifying because he may divulge some stuff and embarrass people. I think that is part of it as well.
100%. She was blowing him kisses.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, they're very cozy. So that's why Maxine wanted to cut things short today before she was reminded that that's not the way it works. She's not going to like not being in charge of that committee come January 3rd, is she?
No, she's not, because like I said, she has, and I don't remember the exact details, but she has enriched herself being on the banking committee. As I said, her husband owns a bank. Yeah, her husband is the president of a bank or something, and they got some special perks or whatever that the ordinary people like us wouldn't be able to get.
So now is that just banking privilege? Do we call that?
I like that, banking privilege. That may be what
committee chairwoman privilege.
Committee chairwoman privilege, black privilege, woman privilege, all of that. They'll claim all of that.
We'll just call it Maxine privilege.
Which, that kind of, we can segue that into Chris's Corner at 442.
Ooh.
I don't even know how to put a title on this, but let's put it this way. Chris's Corner is going to be about the LGBTQ community, and I'm just sick and tired of it.
Okay, well,
that's
an ear grabber right there.
Is that provocative enough?
It's provocative.
That's good enough.
It sure is.
And I'm going to talk about a specific instance, but I thought I'd give a good tease there and give Jeff and Joe a heart attack, thinking I'm going to say something.
Folks, his name is Chris Arps. You can reach out to him on Twitter and Facebook.
Here's his email. Exactly. Too, when we come back next hour too, I'd like to talk about McCarthy and this speaker's race. The big hang up, Susie, seems to be this motion to vacate, which if I was speaker, I would never do anything or accept anything like that. But it's looking like he may have to give on that some, and he has kind of signaled that he could give on that a little bit. But what do you think? If you were in that position, would you give your enemies the right to remove you at any time they feel like it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a little dicey. I think that McCarthy is going to, he is going to have to thread a very small needle to get, get the speakership and then maintain control over his party, because it's a fractious bunch. And while there's definitely common agenda, there are definitely splits in the party in terms of some of the things that they want to pursue. And, he certainly does not have the backing of all of the Republican members. And with such a slim margin, it's going to be dicey for him.
How would you feel? Because there is a move by a moderate Republican in the House that if they can't get the votes for McCarthy, he wants to have a unity candidate that 5, 6, 7 Republicans can vote for, and all of the Democrats vote for this person, and they become speaker. What do you think of that? We'd have a Republican speaker, kind of. But what do you think the base would think about that? Would they accept this person?
I think they would lose their minds, because that quote unquote Republican speaker would then be beholden to the Democrats and be pretty much in a position where they were constantly having to barter away Republican agenda points. Right. So I don't think that's a good idea at all.
And what I think is eventually going to happen, and I've said this, is I think the 4 or 5 people that said they will never vote for McCarthy, I think they're just going to not show up that day or vote present, lower the threshold that he needs to get the votes, and that's how he gets in.
I think they need to broker a deal, use some leverage, and get their way, and then vote for him. So,
yep,
hey,
probably what's going to happen.
One of the issues
he wants that speakership bad.
Yeah, I know. One of the things they may be talking about is this credit card act that we're going to talk about with our next guest coming up at 4:07. Doug Cantor of the Merchants Payment Coalition. So be sure to stick around. We'll be coming back up right after the top of the hour here at News Talk STL. You're listening to us at 101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis West is all about safety. That's why training is a critical part of what we do. No one wants to be in a situation where seconds count, but help is minutes away. But if that day comes, are you ready? No matter what your firearm experience level is, we have courses and instructors that can help. The Range St. Louis West is the area's premier training facility, shooting range, and all things firearms retail facility. Check us out online at therangestl.com or stop by and visit with our professional staff. The Range St. Louis West. Are you ready?
The roller coaster. No matter your age, no matter the amusement park, it never ceases to bring the emotional goods, the anticipation, the excitement, and then the fear and adrenaline rush that comes with the king of all rides. The same can be said when it comes to your retirement. Lots of questions and concerns that for some can feel like a roller coaster. Will you be able to continue to live as comfortably as you do now? Will you have complete financial independence? Will you run out of money? How about taxes, Social Security, or health care? Steve All and his team at the All Financial Group can answer these questions and more with their in-depth portfolio x-ray. Call 636-230-8824 or visit theallfinancialgroup.com. And let's save the fear and adrenaline rush for the amusement park.
Investment advisory services offered by All Financial Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor in Missouri. Insurance products are offered through its affiliate, All Insurance Group, LLC, licensed in Missouri and Illinois.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson here. Everybody here at News Talk STL is incredibly grateful for the growth of our business during our first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Clear Path Wealth Management, STL Fence Works, and Michael's Flooring that have all become advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. Thanks for listening to News Talk STL. Welcome home.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
This hour from townhall.com, I'm Keith Peters reporting.
The new CEO of bankrupt cryptocurrency group FTX testifies before the House Financial Services Committee as the government charged former CEO and founder Sam Bankman-Fried with a host of crimes.
Sam Bankman-Fried was supposed to testify before he was arrested in the Bahamas. The Justice Department and the SEC say he deceived investors to enrich himself, bankrupting the company. New CEO John Ray told lawmakers it's an old crime, embezzlement applied to a new asset.
This is just taking money from customers and using it for your own purpose.
At its peak, FTX's market value topped $30 billion. Ray says in excess of $7 billion was lost and that there was no real record keeping.
They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks.
In interviews, Bankman-Fried denied any fraud. I'm Julie Walker.
The White House says it's fully committed to bringing former Marine Paul Whelan home. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says securing Whelan's release from Russia remains a top priority.
That our commitment to this is absolutely rock solid, intense, and this is as high a priority as the president has.
Sullivan says the administration is in regular contact with Whelan's family and that officials are continually working with the Russians to secure Whelan's freedom. But Sullivan says that does not mean, for example, the U.S. taking a different approach to Ukraine. Greg Clugston, Washington.
A massive storm blowing across the country spawned tornadoes that wrecked homes and injured a handful of people in parts of Oklahoma and Texas, including the Dallas-Fort Worth area. As much of the central U.S., from the Rocky Mountains to the Midwest, braced Tuesday for blizzard-like conditions. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 103 points. The Nasdaq rose 113. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
From the studio that brought you Miracles from Heaven comes 5,000 blankets.
There are over 5,000 homeless souls in this city alone, so it is Philip's wish to reach each and every one of them with a comforting gesture.
Inspired by an extraordinary true story.
We have to believe we can make a change, no matter how small.
Anna Camp stars in 5,000 Blankets, exclusively in theaters for 2 nights only, December 12th and 13th. Rated PG-13, may be inappropriate for children under 13. For tickets and info, go to 5000blanketsmovie.com.
Most small SUVs are flunking new frontal.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Stand Up to Cancer. Stand Up to Cancer, a groundbreaking initiative created to accelerate innovative cancer research that will get new therapies to patients quickly and save lives. Visit standuptocancer.org. Westbound 64 before Kings Highway, they're waiting for a tow to clear an accident from the left lanes. Commuters jam at Compton. A solid backup southbound 55 between 7th and Potomac. A crash in the left lane southbound 55 south of Butler Hill. Long delays westbound 30 from 270. That goes to an accident blocking the right lane at West Watson. Accident westbound 44 ramp 2 southbound 270. Accident US 67 at Meyer Road, both north and southbound. And they cleared the crash northbound 270 south of 64. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by All Solutions Pest Control, 636-486-7888, or visit them at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off to you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. This is Susie Moore filling in for Tim Jones, and I've got Chris Arps here with me as well. Chris, you wrote an article recently at Red State that had to do with a very interesting topic, one I was not familiar with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it did. Well, I'll tell you, the November inflation numbers came out today, and as you can expect, they're horrible. November marked the 19th consecutive month in which inflation rose 5%. You look at all of the numbers with food, up 13.8%, energy prices, 42.7% since Joe Biden has become president. Natural gas prices have increased 42%. And, you know, all of that eats away at our pocketbooks. And I came across an article about a bill about credit card swipe fees and how those fees are adding up to thousands of dollars to consumers every year. And there is a monopoly within the credit card industry with those fees. And we've got Doug Cantor from the National Association of Convenience Stores. He's the general counsel, and he's going to talk about it with us.
Welcome in, Doug. How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Doug, how are you?
How are you? I'm good.
That's fantastic. You know, I am a free market guy. I'm pro-business, all of that. And a lot of people were kind of surprised that I wrote an article that seemed to be trying to limit business profits and things of that nature. Tell us about your article that you wrote, where I got this information.
So we're a free market industry and association. Convenience stores, most of them across the country, are small businesses, and we work with all those Main Street businesses you can think of: restaurants, grocery stores, movie theaters, you name it. And all of them are getting crushed by these high credit card fees because that's not a free market. And so Roger Marshall of Kansas has taken the lead here on a bill that is actually bipartisan too, and Senator Durbin of Illinois is working on it with him. But all it does is say, hey, you need to have some competition here and have an actual free market because we don't have one today.
Doug, you mentioned this is bipartisan, and that's kind of a rarity these days, it seems, in D.C. But is this something that it looks like they'll be able to get across the finish line? And if so, is that something that would be happening before the end of the year or in the new Congress?
This is something they'll get across the finish line. The only question is when, not if, this will happen. Because when you look at it, not only is it bipartisan and attracting support from folks who have very different politics, as you know, from Senator Marshall and Senator Durbin, but they all recognize Main Street has seen their fees in 2021 were up over 26% from the year before. Their credit card fees this year are up over 27% from what they were last year. So that just is not sustainable, right? Main Street businesses can't take that degree of pain. So this will pass. You know, some of when it will pass just depends on the vagaries of the congressional calendar, which who can predict that?
Fair point.
Exactly. So, Doug, what is the excuse that the credit card companies are using for jacking up these fees?
So they will throw anything out there they can to try to scare people and say, oh, they need these high fees for security. Oh, it's making consumers' lives better, all that kind of stuff. The bottom line, actually, is that we have this weird system where the two big card companies, Visa and MasterCard, who have 83% of the market, set the prices the big banks charge Main Street retailers. So Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all those big banks that are supposed to be competing with each other in the free market and setting their own prices don't. They say, we'll all charge the same thing, whatever Visa and MasterCard tell us. And when that happens, a predictable result is the fees just go up.
Right. Doug, how is it?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, how did we get to that point where those basically Visa and MasterCard have that stranglehold on things and enable this sort of monopolistic type situation?
Well, interestingly, decades ago, the big banks all got together. Visa actually started as Bank AmeriCard, but they all got together and said, look, let's do this together, essentially form an association of all these banks, and we'll roll out these cards nationally. And people were pretty happy with that. Understandable. You know, you could go travel to another part of the country, use the card. That was great. But what nobody saw are these fees on the back end that were getting essentially price fixed by Visa and MasterCard on the other end. And because nobody saw it, it just kept going out there, right? I mean, even now when you talk to most people, they really don't have any idea that the store where they shop takes it on the chin when they use that card.
And what we're talking about with Doug Cantor from the National Association for Convenience Stores, he's the general counsel, is the Credit Card Competition Act. Now, would this apply to all banks or only the largest banks?
It only applies to 32 banks. It has an exemption at $100 billion in assets. Every bank below that number is completely exempt, doesn't have to do anything. It's really only those giant ones, some of which I named, the Citis and Wells and JP Morgan Chase of the world, that those banks really control the whole system. And so they're the ones who, frankly, they're big enough they can be big boys and set their own prices.
Sure.
Doug, with that level of control that they have, has there not been some pushback from them against this?
There's a lot of pushback. They're spending millions of dollars, literally, on ads and disinformation and throwing things at this any way that they can. It's amazing what they will do to try to get out of it. In fact, one part of this bill that's really important is it bars China's network, China UnionPay, from coming into the United States. And Roger Marshall was really championed that. Visa and MasterCard invited China UnionPay into setting security standards for U.S. payment cards. So part of this bill is, hey, wait a minute, let's make this free and competitive, but let's also make sure we're not bringing in some bad actors who could cause problems for our system over here.
Doug, what would you say to those, you're with the National Association of Convenience Stores, that say, well, people would think, well, that's Quick Trip, that's these really large stores, they can absorb these costs. This is not that much of a big deal. What would you say to critics that say that?
I'd say two things. First, 60% of our industry are single store operators. The person you see behind the counter when you walk in probably owns the place. The second is, even when you include the big players, the Quick Trip, 7-Eleven, all of them are part of the industry too, the average profit margin in our industry is about 2.5%. The fees they pay on credit cards alone are 2.25%. So they've got a big problem, right? They obviously can't absorb those fees. And just by way of comparison, so that nobody's confused about who's hurting and who's doing well, the big money center banks' profit margins, the ones who the bill applies to, their profit margins are 32.5%.
Wow.
There's a little bit of a difference there.
Slightly. Doug, is this one of those things that once it's passed, the everyday consumer will notice much of? I mean, there may be some reports on it in the news, but as you indicated, most people don't really understand how this works. So will we see a difference when we are using these cards and engaging in these transactions?
Consumers won't see a difference. The changes will all be a back office change. What will happen over time is those inflation numbers you talked about will gradually have less pressure putting them up. That's what we really need to get to, because think about it in the inflation context. The fees that get charged to the merchants are a percentage of the transaction amount. So every time there's 1 penny of inflation, these fees automatically go up. That's part of the problem here. So take it from the business owner's perspective now. They see their goods getting more expensive. Take the local grocer. Eggs and milk are getting more expensive. They finally get to the point and say, geez, I've got to raise my prices to match how much my own costs are going up. As soon as they do that, their fees go up. And then they hold their heads and say, oh my God, now do I have to raise my prices again to cover the extra fees I have to pay? It's this endless, vicious cycle that they're running into.
Doug, where do you see this, the Credit Card Competition Act, where do you see this on the congressional calendar with the new Congress coming in? Is this something that will be immediately on the agenda, or do you think this is something that will pass sometime next year? What's the priority for this in Congress, do you think?
Well, our priority is we're pushing to try to get them to vote on it this year, even before they leave. A lot of things have been left to the last minute here, so I have to say I don't know that they have the time to spend on this bill now, but we're still pressing for that. I do expect if it doesn't happen this year, it will be right back early next year, as I said, just because the pain Main Street's feeling over this is really huge right now.
Doug, if people do want to read up on this and find out more about it and educate themselves on it, what's the best place for them to go to find out this information?
So we're part of a coalition, the Merchants Payments Coalition, and you can go to that website, merchantspaymentscoalition.com, and take a look at all the background information on this issue going back years. You can see how much these fees have gone up. You can see how Visa and MasterCard fix the prices the banks charge. You can see how, frankly, security and other things have suffered as a result, just like any time you have a monopolist and a broken market. So that's the best place to go.
And we've been speaking with Doug Cantor. He's the general counsel for the National Association for Convenience Stores. Doug, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with this legislation. Sure hope it passes and gives us all a little relief in our pocketbooks, especially these convenience stores.
Thank you. Really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Doug. Great talking to you. Folks, when we come back, we are going to be talking with David Stokes of the Show Me Institute. I think he's got some interesting information to share with us about some TIF issues, so I'm looking forward to that. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. Stick around. We'll be back right after this.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. Commuters are lined up on westbound 64 from Compton to an accident before Kings Highway. The two left lanes are closed. Police are waiting for a tow truck. Volume westbound 64 Hampton to Big Bend and again between Lindbergh and 270. There's an accident westbound 44 ramp to 270. Now we have a second crash in the backup westbound 44 at Geyer. There's a crash westbound 30 at West Watson. It just cleared. Expect residual delays. Bumper to bumper southbound 55 between Lafayette and Potomac, and an accident southbound 55 north of Merrimack Bottom. You're backed up south of 270. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michaels Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michaels has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michaels. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michaels. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michaels has to offer at igotfloored.com. From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Hey, it's Vic. Everyone here at News Talk STL is incredibly grateful for the growth in our business during the first 18 months since we signed on the air. We appreciate the great local businesses like Southern Armory, Rhino Shield, Steph's Pizza, and the Walner team that have become one of our many advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming part of the News Talk STL family, simply send an email to info@newstalkstl.com. We have a wide variety of affordable advertising options. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas from your friends at News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary.
With each Twitter file drop, we learn just how scared the old leftist guard of Twitter was of free thought, free speech, and truth. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Starting to realize your small business is a little overwhelmed by the holiday rush? It's still not too late to get all of your shipping and mailing under control with Stamps.com. Sign up right now, and you'll be printing your own postage in just minutes with discounted USPS and UPS shipping rates. Just go to Stamps.com, click the mic at the top of the page, and use code BUSINESS for a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale. That's Stamps.com, code BUSINESS.
We're learning more and more about the great lengths old Twitter went to stifle conservative speech. Yet didn't former CEO Jack Dorsey testify before Congress that the censoring and selective filtering of conservatives wasn't happening? And what about the mainstream media, who's held even to this day that censorship is just a big conspiracy theory? Will they apologize or even acknowledge the truth? We didn't need Elon Musk to tell us we've been screwed over on social media. Any conservative with a following and a tenacity for spreading the truth knows this has been happening and happening for years. But these files, this all-out exposure should serve as a reckoning on big tech as a whole. Because if Twitter was doing this, then we know Facebook, Instagram, Google, and other search engines were and probably still are. When will Congress finally get serious about prosecuting and holding big tech accountable? I'm Tommy Lahren.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on News Talk STL. Got Chris Arps here on the line with us, and this is Susie Moore filling in for Tim Jones today. Chris, it's getting gloomier and darker here in St. Louis.
Well, I have to say, the sun is starting to set here in southern Florida. I guess that's where I'm. I don't know. But it's a really warm, beautiful day today. I could live down here. As I said to many of you, I don't need seasons. I could live with 85, 90-degree weather year-round.
You'd be good with
me
it.
at least. Wouldn't bother me in the least.
Do we see a future retirement location for you, Chris?
Oh, yeah. Becky and I want to move to Texas.
All right.
That's where the Arps family is from.
Right.
Inherited some land down there after my father passed. And I really would like to live in Houston because they have a little warmer weather, but it'll be in the Dallas area. But it's still 50 degrees. It's like cold in the winter for Texas and Dallas. So I can deal with that much better than what you guys are dealing with today.
Well, you know who's not cold is our good friend David Stokes. You've got him on the line here, and he's here, I think, to talk about some things that maybe have him a little hot under the collar.
Oh, well, he's very popular. They think he's a righteous dude.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute. In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spike. It was
I knew there's some spike somewhere in there doing some spike stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
David Stokes?
Hello, everybody. How are you today?
Good, David. How are you?
Great, Dave. Great. You know, Dave, we're going to talk about the Chesterfield TIF, which is $325 million deal. And you know what? And we talked about this last week a little bit. The way that they were trying to sell it now is kind of a mixed use development, kind of they call it the Chesterfield downtown. But you're still saying it's not worth it's not worth it, right?
Well, it may well be worth the investment. It may well be worth the growth. It's not. I've got nothing against the development per se. That's right. Not my role at all. But you're funding this with property taxes taken from other taxing districts. Like Chesterfield doesn't have a property tax, so they came up with this idea to pay for new roads and sewers, and which have at least a public purpose to that, but also tearing down Chesterfield Mall and building new parking lots to serve the area. You know, a lot of private purposes too, but they're doing it with tax dollars that don't belong to Chesterfield, and that's just what's so fundamentally wrong with tax increment financing or TIF. And in the end, because there's such a large residential component to this plan in the Parkway and Rockwood school districts, primarily Parkway, you know, in the end, when they get all these new children in these residential units, and Parkway has to educate these kids, many of them at least, without new tax dollars, you know, they're going to raise taxes on everybody else in Parkway school districts. So that's one of the many flaws in tax increment financing.
David, who are we seeing some of? I mean, obviously, I know that you've got your own views on this, but there's been some pushback amongst some of the retailers in the area, hasn't there?
There has been. Dillard's is threatening a lawsuit over it. Dillard's is saying, and what I know, I've read in the newspaper reports on it, that they were not included, notified, and involved in any of this discussion. That they should have been notified as a tenant and business there. They still have their store even though it's closed. So they're objecting to their lack of notification, their lack of being included in the discussion. So they're threatening. I don't know if they're going to follow through with it or not, but they're threatening to sue, which could be very interesting because it would delay this tax increment financing package if they were to be victorious. And why that matters is because, you know, they've already started this project, even though the developers in Chesterfield said in their application that it wouldn't be possible to do this project without the TIF. They began it well before they received the TIF, so that certainly puts that statement into question. But if they have to start this whole process over again, that's really going to potentially affect the size of the subsidy that they can get from the property taxes. So it's a very interesting issue that Dillard's is raising here.
So, David, why is Dillard suing? Do they own their portion of the Chesterfield Mall? I know the Jamestown Mall, Sears, they own their part of Jamestown Mall. I think Dillard's may have too. Is that why they're suing? I'm not understanding why they're suing if the store is closed.
Chris, I'm going to tell you, I don't exactly know why they're
Okay.
suing. I don't. Okay. I know from the newspaper articles that I've read, primarily in West News Magazine, which had a good story on it, that they obviously have some objections to how the entire process has been handled, and they're stating that they had rights to be notified of it and involved in it, and that they didn't hear about anything about this till it was basically done, and that as a tenant who may own, I don't know if they're like Johnny Londoff and own their own building and lot or not. I should have done that, and I should have tried to do an impersonation there. I didn't. Own my own building and lot.
You sing the tune.
You got to get them to You got to get them to advertise now, Dave.
There you go.
Johnny Londoff Chevrolet.
There you go, Stel.
So I don't know if they own it or not. I don't know why. Beyond what's said in the newspaper, I don't have any back information for you, but I do think it's very interesting, and it just goes to show how some of these developers in the city, like they think they had it in the bag, and perhaps they did have it sort of preordained, which would be terrible for good government in our region.
Is this something you see the legislature trying to tackle, sort of the reform of this kind of ever-growing issue, the TIF stuff?
I hope we continue to try to tackle it. We just had 3 aldermen in the city of St. Louis go to jail for corruption involved with tax subsidies in the city of St. Louis. It wasn't TIF, but they were very, tax abatements and the land bank and things that we've been talking about for years. So I would hope that this is a great way to have further changes. We've been pushing for years to have county level TIF commissions adopted throughout Missouri. We have one in St. Louis County because that, in our thinking and the thinking of other people who were backing it, and there were a lot, that's a much more regional perspective on it as opposed to what's good for Shrewsbury or what's good for Ellisville or what's good for Maryland Heights or Chesterfield. And that had worked. Charlie Dooley, under his administration, had his TIF commission reject a number of TIFs, but unfortunately the law at the time allowed cities to override it more easily. Now they can't do that. And County Executive Page's commission, as I gave him a lot of credit 3 years ago when they rejected the terrible Maryland Heights TIF proposal, that was excellent. But in more recent years, they've approved the Webster Grove TIF. They just approved this terrible Chesterfield TIF. I want to apologize for this coughing. Unfortunately, I guess we have to go a little further than just a county TIF commission, because that has worked very well in St. Charles and Jefferson County.
David, isn't TIFs and that type of financing, the cat is out of the bag on that, in that you just have all of these different communities competing for these projects, and if they don't offer them some type of incentives, they're just going to go somewhere else. What do you say to that argument?
Well, the academic literature on this subject is pretty clear that usually, in the majority of instances, people are just asking for the subsidy, but they don't really need it. They don't really make their decision based on it. And if you reject it, in many instances, they still go to that region. Now, in a heavily fragmented area like St. Louis, the situation might be larger. Excuse me, I apologize for this coughing. What I mean by that is, it might matter to Chesterfield or Maryland Heights that a certain development be in their area only, but it should matter to the region. So the fact is that as a region, we're just continually shooting ourselves in the foot. It may matter to individual cities, but it shouldn't, and that's why we need to change the system so totally to not make these decisions at the city level.
David, in addition to TIF reform, what are some of the other hot topics you all are looking at the Show Me Institute right now?
Well, St. Louis County is voting on their budget this evening, and I like the fact that they seem to be focused on budget cuts. St. Louis County, the budget has gotten so large over the past couple of decades. So I'm in favor of the tactic to focus on cuts here. I think that they're going to be, we talked last week a bit about a recent article in the Post-Dispatch that I don't think was critical enough of the St. Louis County Budget Department. and their claims about how they haven't been able to benefit from property tax growth in St. Louis County. That's just not true. Property taxes have been growing. Everybody in the county is getting, excuse me, their car property tax bills right now, and it's really, they're going to get a $3 million windfall from these car property taxes alone this year. And frankly, I think St. Louis County needs to just be more disciplined in how they spend money here.
David, there's an article in the Post-Dispatch today. Title is Alderman Advance Plan to Review St. Louis Charter. I don't live in the city, so I don't particularly care. But does the St. Louis Charter need review, in your opinion?
Every once in a while, we do it with the state. In November, we just voted on should we have a constitutional convention to renew the state constitution. That was rejected. St. Louis County, you have to look at that same thing every 10 years or so. I can't apologize enough for this cough.
You're okay, man.
That time of year.
I feel terrible about it. So there's nothing wrong with checking out the charter every 10 years or so. And in fact, a decade ago, St. Louis City made a wonderful change to the charter when they reduced it from 28 members of the Board of Aldermen to 14. They've also, over time, turned a few elected offices into appointed ones in the past few decades, such as the public administrator, the medical examiner, things that really didn't need to ever be elected. So moving in this direction for good government, I think would be great. I don't know exactly what the ideas behind this charter change are. I'd be scared if it was more movement towards, different. I'm not liking the way they've changed some of their voting systems in the city of St. Louis. I hope we don't adopt it, ranked voter choice and that statewide. But it remains to be seen what they're going to do.
Yeah. Alderman Bosley of the 3rd Ward, I'm reading in the article, he says that this is just a measure to possibly strip aldermen of their power, and this could lead to a city merger with the county. That's his concern.
Well, I think there's the idea of a full merger between the city and the county. That's just not going to happen. Nobody wants that in the city or in the county. If they move towards the city rejoining the county as another city in it, I think that's worthy of discussions, and that really wouldn't affect the Board of Aldermen itself, other than it might move some of their power to the county council. I think a lot of your listeners would probably be very concerned about that. They're certainly in Better Together. There was a lot of opposition to any movement at all, but I think it's worth having these discussions of how St. Louis City and St. Louis County can operate better together. Not just generically, not quoting the
not with capital letters.
The proposal there, right? Lowercase letters.
All right. Well, David, we appreciate you being on with us today. I know it's we appreciate you soldiering through. Where can people go if they want to find out more about these issues?
A lot of information available at showmeinstitute.org. You can follow me on Twitter at David C. Stokes. And Chris and Susie, I apologize again for this.
No.
Coughing fit. I don't know where it came from.
No worries.
It'll go away soon.
No worries.
If anybody would like to send you some cough syrup or some cough lozenges, Dave, where would they send those?
I've got them at home. I just don't have them in front of me here at the office. I'll go home and get them.
All right. Well, hang in there, David. Good
we
talking
love you,
to
Dave.
you. Good talking to you. Folks, stick around when we come back. I think that Chris indicated he's got a Chris's Corner for us.
I do have a Chris's Corner today, and it's going to be on the topic of LGBTQXIYJY22 cross the TL.
Okay, I think I got that all.
Is that it?
All right, awesome. Well, thanks. Well, stick around. We'll be back. No. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Follow us on Getter at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center,
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their families put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.org. 22 minutes southbound 55 between the Poplar Street Bridge and 270. An accident southbound 55 north of Merrimack Bottom. Accidents westbound 44 at 270 and westbound 44 at Bowles. Westbound 30 at West Watson, still clearing an earlier accident. Southbound 270 McDonald 255 is 40 minutes. 19 minutes westbound 64, the Poplar Street Bridge to 270. A crash reported westbound 70 at Lucas and Hunt, and heavy southbound 170 between Ladue and 64. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind as we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The news and talk.
There's more Twitter files that were released over the weekend
that matters to St. Louis.
We really have a peek into the black box.
This is a scandal. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
This border is a disaster.
News Talk STL.
Guys, are you getting up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? As we get older, so do our prostates, and that can mean urinary problems that affect our sleep and quality of life. Life is better outside the bathroom. Real Health's Prostate Complete can help you relieve those annoying and painful prostate symptoms. Available at Walmart or visit realhealth.com for more information and to order yours today. Try it risk-free with our 120-day money-back guarantee. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease.
We tried Dynavite for gut health and immune support, and after a couple of weeks, our little Gizmo was acting like a puppy again. His coat was shinier, he had a lot less scratching and shedding, and he seemed like his happy old self.
My dog smelled and scratched constantly. We bathed and sprayed her, took her to the vet, but no results. Now, a little Dynavite in her food helps Bella keep her beautiful coat with no scratching or smell.
Get 10% off your next order of Dynavite nutritional supplements for dogs at Dynavite.com. Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dynavite.
Columbo and Katie.
Their job at this incredibly upscale fancy restaurant in London is to go around to the tables and hand feed grapes to the customers.
I don't even want to be like disturbed by a waiter that's filling up my glass every 5 seconds or asking me how I'm doing every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine someone coming over to me and being like, "And a grape for you, my dear."
Tony Columbo, Katie Fitzpatrick. Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
This border is a disaster.
News, analysis, opinion.
5.5 million illegal immigrants have crossed the border since Biden took office. This is Biden's fault.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. The Vic Porcelli Show.
So the Democrats at the St. Louis County Council say it's just okay that Sam Page breaks all the rules of the county charter. We'll ask St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder about that at 10:41 on Wednesday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. I am Susie Moore, filling in today for Tim Jones. We've got Chris Arps here with me. Chris, I am anxiously awaiting this Chris's Corner. You've been teasing and promising would be provocative, so let's have it.
It's going to be very provocative. You know, I read an article today that just really kind of set me off on the LGBTQ transgenderism movement, and I want to talk a little bit about it on Chris's Corner.
Chris.
The whole thing is a joke.
Good God, we got to do something here, people.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
My favorite
black leader of all time is Frederick Douglass, who asked after emancipation, well, we just freed the blacks, now what are we going to do with them? And his answer was, leave us alone.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
I just want to start off by saying that this is America. And in America, as long as you're not hurting anyone else or breaking the law in any way, you can live your life any way that you see fit. And I agree with that. As I said, as long as it doesn't encroach on my rights or what you're trying to teach my children. But today, as I said, I read an article today that has really just set me off on edge. I don't know if you all have been following the story of Sam Brinton. He is the former now Biden administration official. He was supposed to be the nuclear waste official, whatever the hell that is. But he's out of a job because of 2 incidences of stealing luggage from a store. Now, I want to read you a little bit of this article, and I want you to pay attention to some of the words that are being used, and it'll show you just how politically correct our society is. Okay, here it goes. A Biden administration nuclear waste official, Sam Brinton, is out of a job after being accused of stealing airport luggage in 2 separate incidents. Sam Brinton is no longer a DOE employee, a Department of Energy spokesman told the Daily Beast on Monday morning. Brinton checked the luggage and at least 2 other flights following the alleged... Oh, excuse me. What here? I'm not even going to try to write it. What happened was this woman, whatever, has stolen luggage, not only once, but twice within like a 2-week period from 2 separate airports. If you have ever seen Sam Brinton, he is the definition of pansexual, binary, whatever you want to call it. He is bald. He has a mustache. He wears bright red lipstick, and he also wears dresses. Now, as I've said, you can live your life any way that you want to live it. But I'm not playing. I've said before that I think people that have gender dysphoria, I think it is a mental disorder. I don't say that to be mean or anything like that, but it's a mental disorder. You look at the person I can't think of his name right now, but he's the gentleman that is in the government. He looks like a man that's dressed like a woman. This gentleman here, what type of person would go out in public with a man with red lipstick, bald, wearing a dress with a mustache and a beard? If that is not someone who has mental issues, I don't know who doesn't have mental issues. It's clear that this man is suffering from something, not only because of the way that he carries himself and dresses, but he's stealing from stores like he's some type of kleptomaniac, like he has some type of mental disorder, which he does. As I said, live your life any way that you want to live it. People should leave you alone. I said last week on Newsmax when what's her name was released from prison. I said that's a fine thing. That's great. I'm glad that she's home. She can live her life any way that she wants to. That is fine. But we should not be bending over backwards for her because she is a lesbian, is attracted to the same sex. I'm just tired of it. I'm not playing the game anymore or I've never played the game, but it just really fires me up that I'm not going to say that somebody's binary. I'm not going to say that some woman, that man that's dressed up a woman is a woman, and I have to call him that, or I'm being offensive. Forget that. These people have mental issues, have mental disorders. They need some type of psychological help. And I and the rest of society, we're not going to play into their game and really just acknowledging their mental illness as okay. That's what I think it is in the long run. And so that is Chris's Corner.
Okay.
Got a little discombobulated on it, but
I'm not sure I really get how do you really feel?
Yeah, but it's serious. I mean,
I get it.
Have you seen Sam Brinton?
Oh, I've seen Sam Brinton.
You've seen this guy?
We've had several articles about his latest escapades at Red State, of course. Yeah,
I mean, go ahead.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. There's all kinds of people out there that look all kinds of ways. And if Sam Brinton looked like Sam Brinton and wasn't stealing other people's luggage, okay. That's, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I really don't really care. Would I raise an eyebrow? Yeah, fine. But that's fine. It's the fact that he's engaged in this behavior that obviously is illegal and for which he's being prosecuted and has now lost his job, thankfully. But there's this kind of idea that if you are somebody who belongs to a marginalized group, someone who is non-binary or who identifies as gay or queer or questioning or whatever, that you are then somehow exempt from scorn if you behave badly, like stealing other people's luggage. That I have a problem with.
And I think my point that I was trying to make is I think this proves that he has some type of mental disorder. Definitely. If you're like stealing luggage, you got away with it one time and then you do it again. I mean, and he works for the government. He's probably a mid-level official with the government. He probably makes a pretty decent salary. He doesn't need to steal this expensive luggage. I think it's just part of his mental disorder.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, people can have a kleptomania or other mental disorder that kind of feeds this compulsion to take other people's things. First of all, people can just be greedy and amoral, and that's not necessarily mental disorder, but they're just not very good people as far as how they're behaving. But people do have mental disturbances that may lead them to do this sort of thing or act impulsively, that sort of thing, and that could be wholly independent of how they identify. But either way, this is somebody who, it strikes me based on what we know of him, and granted, it's not a whole lot. It's just very eye-opening or eyebrow raising. I struggle to figure out, okay, does this person passes background checks? Aren't they, is there some sort of like mental fitness examination that goes into holding a role? And if so, how high up? What kind of clearance does this person have? What kind of vetting is done? Or are we kind of jumping over that just to get to somebody who checks certain boxes so we can say how enlightened and progressive we are?
Yeah, and the article that I read, within the article, they said, well, he was the first binary official that worked for the government. Give me a break. And listen to this. Let me read you how he's binary, so he doesn't know what
non-binary.
Sex is.
He's non-binary,
so he doesn't know what sex
you're
is.
You're binary, Chris. I'm binary.
I hope I'm something. But this is how they described it. They initially denied taking the bag, which was reportedly worth more than $2,500, but later said they had grabbed it by mistake. I mean, why are we playing these games, Susie? Why? Why are we even subscribing to this? Call him a man what his gender is. Don't forget this day crap.
Well, you know what? Everybody's got their own take on that and how much they're willing to tolerate as far as, acceding to someone else's preferences about how you address them. I gotcha. But some people are more willing to go that. And the bottom line is that particularly in the legacy media, you're going to see much more of a progressive lean and much more of a willingness to go along with someone else's preferences as far as what their pronouns are. And that's why. I mean, the answer to that. That's why.
Yeah.
It's a virtue signal sort of thing. It's a look how enlightened and progressive we are.
And do you think also it's a way to normalize it in a sense? It's like if more and more publications start using they instead of using he, she, or whatever, then it'll make the public even more accepting of it. I think that is part of the plan as well. It just makes me just angry because the world is just upside down and going nuts, and it seems like us conservatives are the only sane people left on the planet sometimes, man.
And I think we have a dysfunctional administration, to be honest with you.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely.
And other governments are looking at us from overseas, and they got to be scratching their heads and wondering, what are these people doing?
Yeah, I mean, these people have elected, I guess they say the American people have elected a man who obviously has serious mental issues. He's shaking hands, or mental decline. He's shaking hands with non-existent people. He is acknowledging people who are dead. I mean, this is not something that they can hide away. And Russia and China and all of our enemies see that. And I think, earlier this summer when Biden was having a lot of mental difficulties, it seemed, I don't think it's a coincidence that North Korea was shooting missiles over Japan, trying to send a message.
And by the way, Rachel Levine is the person you were trying to.
Oh, yeah.
Admiral Rachel Levine.
That's it.
Yes.
I mean,
does
does he look like a woman at all to you? I mean, do you see any
other than
feminine features?
Other than the hair, maybe? No.
Yeah. I mean, some of these people they that are transgender and do this, I mean, they go through a lot of trouble to at least kind of, make themselves look female. I mean, he tries with the dresses and the long hair and the makeup, but it's like, you're a dude.
Yeah, I guess I have a slightly different take on it. I mean, mine is, maybe it's not successful at persuading others to believe that is a biological female, but if that's how the person wants to present themselves, that's okay with me. But it's like, I guess the closest I can come up with is this. When someone has something about their appearance that stands out, whether it's a mohawk or brightly colored hair or certain piercings, that's them expressing themselves. And I'm fine with that. But don't be then surprised when people kind of take a second look and kind of do a double take, because that is different from the norm. And obviously you're trying to cultivate that. You want to stand out. You want to be different. Well, that's okay. But then don't be mad if people sort of treat you as different.
But are they trying to be different, Susie? Or are they just saying, I'm a woman and this is who I really am inside and this is how I'm going to dress? I'm not trying to be different. This is who I am and I'm being who I am.
No, I think it may vary from person to person. I guess the point is when you have to write that on some level, you have to give enough grace to accept other people for who they are, but you also have to give grace that people may find something unusual, be a little unsure of how to react to it.
An interesting side point to this is Babylon B started the entire Twitter files situation just because of Rachel Levine and their announcement of Man of the Year, and Elon Musk looked at that and said, whoa, okay, now we got an issue here. And they were off of Twitter, and the rest is history now.
That's another good point, though, Stel. I mean, we've lost the ability to have even a sense of humor about things. I mean, there should be some point at which we can maybe recognize that there are some things that are unusual and go against stereotypes or whatever and have a little fun with it good-naturedly. And we've lost the ability to do that.
What I'm wondering, this is a question for you guys with 1 minute left. Do you think that we'll ever get back to it? Will there be some type of event where people will just say, oh my God, the political correctness and all this stuff has just gone just overboard, and liberals and conservatives, all of us agree, and we need to pare this back? I guess more Bill Maher's and the black comedian. Do you think we'll see more of them in the coming
Will we
days
see real
and
comedy
years?
return? Will we?
Or just people that aren't worried about offending people and are tired of just all of the political correctness. I mean, is there some event that's going to happen where people are the scales are going to drop from their eyes and they're going to be like, yeah, this has gone over?
I don't know.
We'll have to wait and find out, I suppose.
I hope so.
Folks, thanks for being here with us on News Talk STL. We'll be back just after the top of the hour here. We've got more to talk about, including Jeff Charles coming up.
Talk radio made in St. Louis.
Very excited for what you guys are doing for the St. Louis community.
For St. Louis. Relevant local talk.
Saying what we are thinking.
This is News Talk STL.
No, you guys are awesome. I love you. And it's a tremendous honor to be on the station.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Thanks for covering the local angle.
Oh, people, this is America.
We better open our eyes.
Really local, really good.
News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Hi, Sean Long with STL Fenceworks. Our company realized another extraordinary year of great business. I thank God for engineering our success and for this great nation and all the blessings it offers those who persevere and work hard. Second, I want to personally thank the great customers who put their faith in our company to make their home and backyard dreams a vision fulfilled. STL Fenceworks doesn't exist without you, and I'm humbled and grateful for your patronage. I also want to thank all my great employees. You're the backbone of STL Fenceworks. You make my vision a reality. I'm truly honored to work amongst such fine people. Finally, as the year ends, I want to remind everyone to take time to enjoy the season. Embrace your family and friends, count the blessings in your life. Reflect on the important things, and don't forget the true meaning of Christmas, when a baby was born, Jesus, our Savior. On behalf of everyone at STL Fenceworks, have a very Merry Christmas and a blessed and prosperous New Year.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Reporting. The U.S. Department of Energy announces a new breakthrough on fusion energy production. Correspondent Bernie Bennett has more.
Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm confirmed on Tuesday that scientists at a federal facility have created more energy from nuclear fusion reactions than they used to start the process. Granholm said the development moved the country significantly closer to the possibility of fusion energy, a carbon-free source, with officials calling this discovery a breakthrough. Nuclear fusion refers to fusing atoms together to produce energy. The type of nuclear energy that is commonly used today does the opposite, deriving energy from splitting atoms apart. Bernie Bennett reporting.
A promising development in the battle to defeat one particular form of cancer.
Drug makers Merck and Moderna say a potential skin cancer vaccine they're working on performed well in a mid-stage study. The vaccine relies upon the same technology that's behind COVID-19 shots. The drug makers say a combination of the vaccine and Merck's immunotherapy Keytruda led to a statistically significant improvement in recurrence-free survival time in patients with stage 3 or stage 4 melanoma who had the tumors removed. Rich Thomason reporting.
U.S. officials say the Biden administration is poised to approve sending a Patriot missile battery to Ukraine, finally agreeing to an urgent request from Ukrainian leaders desperate for more robust weapons to shoot down incoming Russian missiles. The official said the approval is likely to come later this week and could be announced as early as tomorrow. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pressed Western leaders as recently as Monday to provide more advanced weapons to help his country in its war with Russia. The Patriot would be the most advanced surface-to-air missile system the West has provided to Ukraine. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 103 points. The Nasdaq rose 113. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Inflation slowing again last month.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org. 23 minutes right now, southbound 55 between the Poplar Street Bridge and 270. The accident southbound 55 north of Merrimack Bottom is cleared. There's a new accident westbound 44 at 270. They cleared earlier accidents westbound 44 before 270 and westbound 44 at Bowles. Accident eastbound 44 at US 50, westbound 30 at West Watson. All lanes are reopened. Southbound 270 McDonald 255 is 40 minutes, and a crash westbound 70 at Lucas and Hunt. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL. traffic.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, everybody. This is Paul Kurtman, host of the Paul Kurtman Show on News Talk STL, but I'm also the president of PR Kurtman Investments. The market is down and inflation is up. So if you have questions about the investments in your portfolio, please let me help. Just send me an email by visiting freedomportfolios.com. There's no cost. The market might be uncertain, but that doesn't mean you should be too. Contact me today, Paul Kurtman, by visiting freedomportfolios.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. I am Susie Moore filling in for Tim Jones today, and we've got Chris Arps here as well. And I believe it's time for us to talk to you about our winner for the St. Louis Conservative Christmas. Is that right, Stell?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
All right. Well, great. If you're a regular listener, you know we've been giving away prizes on each of the shows every day. So we go through the rest of this week and next week. But today's winner for our show is Beth Hauser. She has won a family 4-pack of tickets to Disney on Ice at the Enterprise Center between February 2nd and 5th. That should be a great show. I'm sure that's going to be a neat thing to do. And if you are interested in wanting to win, folks, all you have to do is go to the News Talk STL website and sign up there. You don't have to call in. You don't have to do anything crazy. You just sign up, and I think you can sign up as many times as you want.
Yes, you're right.
All right. Well, congratulations, Beth Hauser.
Congratulations, Beth. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
You're
indeed.
just fine.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Who is this? No, just kidding.
You know, I want to talk about this border thing that's going on down
This border
at the
thing? We got a border
thing. We got a border. Yeah, really, we do have a border.
What's going on down there?
Did you see that in a 24-hour period, 2,500 migrants have crossed the border in Texas? It's like some type of record. There's never been that many. And what I found very curious was that California Governor Gavin Newsom, he went down and visited the border on Monday. We can't get anyone from the administration to visit the border, but you know what his concern was?
What was it?
He blasted Republicans for blocking comprehensive immigration reform. Nothing about, hey, what can we need more border agents. We need a wall. We need drones. We need something to stop these people from coming over the border. He's saying Republicans are in the wrong because they blocked comprehensive immigration reform.
Well,
what's wrong with these people, Susie?
I guess he's thinking now he'll have more of an authoritative voice on that since he can actually claim he's been to the border, unlike the president and vice president.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, your priorities are a little misplaced, my friend. Immigration reform is not the main issue right now. We need to stop all of these people coming over the border. It's just amazing to me when you hear the numbers that since Joe Biden has been president, 5 million people have illegally entered our country. My partner Tim has said, the state of Missouri is 6 million people. So since Joe Biden has been president, we've basically had the population of Missouri illegally invade our country. And Gavin Newsom says that's okay, and we all need to make them legal. That's what it sounds like, or give them some type of pathway to citizenship.
Chris, when Title 42 is rescinded, I presume in the next week or two, from what I understand, there are literally, I don't know if it's 2,500 folks waiting in Nicaragua and another 3,000 to 3,500 waiting in Guatemala and a couple other countries. And they're set to come up through the Darien Gap and Mexico to make their way into the States. And all they're doing is waiting for Title 42 to disappear.
Wow. Yeah, because the story I had, it says those arriving from Nicaragua cannot be rapidly expelled under the Title 42. Joe Manchin, he's up for re-election in 2024. He led a group of Democrats and Republicans, wrote a letter to Biden demanding that they keep Title 42. So, and also signing on to that letter were some conservative Democrats, Henry Cuellar, down in Texas. You think it will have any effect, Susie?
No, not necessarily. I don't think the letter will. Now let me put it this way. I mean, there's been this jockeying back and forth and litigation all through the court system regarding whether or not the rescission of Title 42 could go into effect, whether it was appropriate, that sort of thing. And if the Biden administration determines that it is to their benefit politically to maintain it and keep it in place, then you will see the change. But it's not going to be in response to this letter.
Now, Joe Manchin, in this new Congress, he won't have quite as much the power that he had in the last Congress. But do you think he would use the little bit of leverage that he has to keep Title 42 in place? I mean, he is still a wild card. He still has a little leverage. I wonder, would he use it to keep Title 42?
You know what? I don't know that that's his top priority. It may be one of his priorities, but I suspect there may be other things that he's going to be more willing to use that leverage on. Most notably about getting some perks for his state and in the energy sector.
Mm-hmm. I bet you a lot of West Virginians are not happy though about the border being overran. He could use that issue.
He's an interesting political creature, given that he is from a pretty red state, and yet he is a Democrat, albeit a moderate Democrat, which seem to be fewer and far between these days. So, yeah, I mean, I think one thing I do get the read out of is that, he likes being popular in his state. He likes the fact that he's kind of sailed to re-election the last time around. So he does take his constituents' priorities into consideration.
Yeah, but remember, too, after he kind of signed on to this Build Back Better deal, his popularity, I'm not going to say plummeted, but he lost a lot of popularity in West Virginia because of that. And he is already being primaried from the right and on the left. People have already thrown in their hat to run against him. And, because he was sometimes an ally with Republicans, they didn't really go after him. I think when Trump was president, he didn't go after him or attack him. He basically wanted him to be reelected. So who knows?
They say politics makes for strange bedfellows, right?
Yeah, they do. They do. Definitely that.
To bring up one other point about the border, Chris, if I can, something that really bothered me that I heard about a few days ago is that there are now NGOs, non-government organizations, that are operating on the Mexican side of the border and clearing individuals before they get to the border, giving them all the proper paperwork and everything else to cross the border into the States. They're on the Mexican side. How does that happen?
I've heard of that.
What type of administration allows something like that to happen? I'm totally dumbfounded by that.
One that's not terribly invested in keeping its border secure.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Exactly. And we were supposed to be working with Mexico to stop the border crossing. So, we're allowing this. The Mexican government is allowing this. What I want to know, because the Catholics, they're Christians, they feel that they're doing God's work by letting these people in.
Catholic charities.
What does the church say about this? Because they're breaking the law.
Yeah,
and,
I think a lot of Catholics have pulled back from their contributions. To be honest with you, from what I understand, I'm not Catholic, but I've spoken to a lot of Catholic folks who have said, I'm not giving any money to the church until this situation is taken care of, because they are so ticked off that Catholic Charities is heavily involved with what's going on at the border. My other thought is, where's all this money coming from? What's his name, who was in the Bahamas?
SBF?
Yes. What type of money laundering stuff has been going on to get money to these NGOs to be able to do the stuff that they're doing down at the border? Just a thought.
Well, but is the Catholic Church per se sponsoring this? I mean, the Catholic Church has a lot of money.
True.
I mean, are they paying for it?
I don't believe so. I think Catholic Charities gets a portion of the donations, I presume, from the parishes.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
I don't know how that works specifically.
So that kind of highlights the tension between, a religious hierarchy and our governmental hierarchy. And obviously the people that are kind of in favor of making immigration easier and not worrying about whether it's legal or illegal are probably looking at it as a spiritual thing, a higher calling to be, to be the humanitarian aspect of it. I think the problem is, you can be empathetic to that without feeling like there shouldn't be any border, that there shouldn't be a process. And God knows our process could be improved and refined if we had a working government, but we don't seem to have that.
Wasn't there a case here in St. Louis, I think, where there was an illegal immigrant that was hiding out not hiding, but was pigeonholing himself in a church, for lack of better terms, so that he couldn't be deported?
I want to say that was in Maplewood. Might have been in Maplewood, possibly.
Yeah.
Yes. I do recall that situation.
So it was a sanctuary?
Yes, exactly. Sanctuary.
A sanctuary. Are St. Louis we're a sanctuary city, are we? I don't know.
So.
Are we?
I don't know. Maplewood maybe too.
I don't think we've been designated, but I know that Mayor Tashara Jones, and the previous mayor, Mayor Slay, they wanted immigrants to come to this country to this city because we were losing so much population, and they needed those numbers so we possibly wouldn't lose a congressional seat. I remember that was a big thing under former Mayor Slay.
Let's find him on immigrants to come to the city, but it would be in an orderly, legal way.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to be talking with Jeff Charles, who is our Red State colleague, and he's got some articles on Twitter, some recent articles on Twitter, Susie?
He's done a lot of the coverage regarding the release of the Twitter files. I think he's covered 2 or 3 of the releases that have come. I think there's been 5 so far, and he's kind of done a summary of several of those. And then he's also kind of followed up with some of the fallout from that, some of the accusations that are being levied against Elon Musk, and some of the reaction by many on the left as far as, their distaste for it and their concerns over it. So it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say.
Do you guys think that the very worst of all of this has come out? I mean, is he sitting on something that's really going to make our eyes just... But I mean, is it, there's more to come, but is it going to be stuff that, makes our mouths drop? Or is it just going to be, that...
Maybe not those who've been paying close attention, but it should be, I think there's going to be some pretty significant stuff.
And when will mainstream media decide to cover it? Just wondering.
It's a never.
Exactly.
All right, folks, we'll stick around, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Jeff Charles, as Chris indicated. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL 101.9, 94.1. Welcome home.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. 42 minutes westbound 70, 270 out to Wentzville Parkway. Accident reported westbound 70 ramp to Route A. 21 minutes westbound 64, the Poplar Street Bridge to 270. Looks like there may be a new crash westbound 64 at Kings Highway. 23 minutes westbound 4064, the Boone Bridge to I-70. Bumper to bumper southbound 55 between 44 and Loughborough. Heavy southbound 270 Page to Manchester. A crash southbound 270 past Doherty Ferry. Southbound 170 backs up between Delmar and 64. There's accidents westbound 44 ramp 2, southbound 270, and eastbound 44 at Six Flags. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
This border is a disaster.
News, analysis, opinion.
5.5 million illegal immigrants have crossed the border since Biden took office. This is Biden's fault.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Tim Jones here. Well, as the old adage goes, winter is coming. That means you need to make sure to spruce up the old homestead. If you haven't done that already, you really need to call Hanson's Tree Service today, 636-379-1830, or more simply, just remember, hansonstree.com. When you go to hansonstree.com or give Chad Hanson and the fellows a call, you'll find that this is prime time for winter trimming. Why should you do that to all of those large assets around your home, your trees? Well, you need to take care of all the dead and decaying limbs from the summer and the fall before Mother Nature and Old Man Winter do, bringing them crashing down on your roofs, into your windows, on your fences. Take care of all that stuff right now before the winter storms start raining down. Also, great time to get Hanson's on the schedule for winter dormant oil applications to prevent insects from taking shelter in your trees, and get on a preventative plant health care program to help protect all of your bushes, trees, shrubs throughout the wintertime so disease and insects do not get into them throughout the winter months, and spring will sprung across your homestead and it will look oh so gorgeous by the time the warmer months are here. Hanson's Tree, 636-379-1830, hansonstree.com. That's hansonstree.com.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hey, how you doing? Santa Vic here. You can win some great prizes with News Talk STL's St. Louis Conservative Christmas.
And that's not crap.
See, that's not we do that's crap. It's not well done.
Log on to newstalkstl.com for your chance to win. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked me what the time was.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. I'm just sitting over here grooving to that good Chicago
I was
music,
grooving to that
right?
too. I love that. I love that. Hey, Susie, remember we were talking earlier in the show about Maxine Waters, and I had said that she had gotten a little trouble. I looked it up and I found what it was.
What was it?
She had diverted, I think it was a bunch of TARP money to a bank in Boston that she owned stock in, and that her husband was on the board of directors, and they did not really have a very strong case to receive TARP money. Now, of course, because she's Maxine Waters, she's black and she's female, they did do an ethics investigation, but surprise, surprise, she was cleared.
Who conducted that investigation?
Exactly.
Chris,
Exactly.
I also have to ask, didn't SBF contribute money to her campaign or something in the past?
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
I have not heard that.
There are
but,
links between
he
them.
has?
There are links between
so that's
them.
why she was. So that's why she was kissy face with them today.
Yeah, I don't know the extent,
okay.
but I know there are definite links between them, and there's a friendly relationship there. So my suspicion is that there were some generous donations.
I'm telling you, I would not be surprised if Maxine made a call to Joe. Joe made a call to the Justice Department and said, "Go arrest him before this hearing. He doesn't have anything to lose now, and I don't want him blowing up my thing."
I don't know. I wonder what our next guest thinks about that.
Yeah.
Folks, we're joined now by Jeff Charles, who is the Red State colleague of Chris and myself, prolific writer at the site and someone who does great coverage of all kinds of topics, not the least of which is a very thorough coverage of the Twitter files. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
And I was going to say he's got a great radio voice,
He
too. You'll
does.
hear that in the next few minutes.
He does. He was made for radio.
Yeah, really.
So Jeff, I happen to know, since I'm one of your editors, that you have been covering the Twitter files document releases pretty extensively. For the one or two people in the audience who have yet to really follow along with what's going on with the Twitter files, what's a brief overview of what we've learned so far?
So basically, most of these drops, or all of these drops, really have focused on the political bias that was in the company before Elon Musk took over. It really delves into decisions made regarding what they call content moderation, which is really just a fancy way to say censorship. In the first drop, they covered the Hunter Biden story and how Twitter chose to suppress that story, basically to give Democrats an edge in the 2020 election. So that was the first drop. The next one dealt with their shadow banning practices, or as they call it, visibility something. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it had a funny name.
Visibility filter. Yeah, visibility filtering. But yeah, that's just a fancy way of saying shadow banning, and how they would throttle certain accounts to decrease their reach on the platform. And of course, this was used mainly against conservatives. But the past three have really focused on the decision to ban former President Donald Trump. And it gives kind of a behind-the-scenes look at the decision-making process and the back and forth between Twitter employees on how they should go about getting him off the platform.
Hey, Jeff, I want to get your comment on a quote from Eric Levitz of New York Magazine. He is talking about the Twitter drop. This is what he says. He says, "Nothing in Taibbi's reporting indicated that Twitter had suppressed the Post story at the request of the Biden campaign, let alone of government officials. Twitter recognized that it had overreached and ceased blocking links to the New York Post story after only one day." What do you think of that?
Well, wait, after one day? No, that ain't true.
Yeah.
They kept that story blocked for quite a while. So that's just an out-and-out lie. I mean, you couldn't even send a story over DMs, which, by the way, according to Matt Taibbi, that extent of censorship is usually reserved for people trying to share child porn. So they use the same method and the same tools for the Hunter Biden story that they use for child porn. So they kept that story banned for quite a while. And yes, it may not have been at the direction of the Biden or the Biden campaign, like they didn't order them to do it, obviously. But that report also showed that there was communication between Biden's campaign and even the DNC. So they did influence that decision, as well as several other content moderation decisions as well. But again, that's really how the media has to react to this, right? They either have to downplay it, ignore it, or just out and out lie about it, because the information that was revealed was very damning.
Jeff, you mentioned one of the kind of key topics that's been talked about regarding this, and that is the fact that there have been issues with child porn on the site and efforts to clean it up. And actually, that seems to have been an aim that Musk himself has says he wants to make a priority. But there's been a lot of pushback about that, hasn't there?
Yeah, of course. Just like with everything he does, there's pushback. And when he first took over, he said he was going to make it priority number one. And these people have Musk derangement syndrome so bad that they're even attacking him over the child porn issue. I mean, before he took over, their moderation team did very little about child sexual abuse material, or CSAM for short. And it even got to the point to where they were sued by two plaintiffs who were minors when they were abused on camera. And that video was circulating on the platform for a very, very, very long time. They asked them repeatedly to take it down, told them it was child porn, and the company refused. So yeah, the previous leadership was very much guilty of allowing this stuff to proliferate. And now that Musk is here to clean it up, it makes them look bad. But since they are the activist media's allies in politics, they have to criticize Elon Musk for that as well, which I never thought I would see the day where people would place politics over protecting children. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Jeff, where do you see Twitter in the next month or year? I mean, Elon Musk has done a revolutionary thing of making free speech again. But, you have advertisers that have been dropping from Twitter, even though some of them have come back. You have some of the liberals who have left, which is kind of good riddance. But where do you ultimately see Twitter? Will it be the dominant platform that it is today a year from now?
I think it'll be even more dominant, Chris. I mean, especially if Elon Musk does what he says he's going to do. I mean, he's already creating a more level playing field. A lot of people have been mad at some moderation decisions, but Musk never said there would be no moderation. He said that it was going to be applied equally, and that's really all anybody wanted. Nobody really expected them to have no content moderation. So what that means is that conservatives are going to get more of a fair shake as far as getting their ideas out there. But that's not all he's doing. I mean, he wants to expand the platform. He wants people to be able to do more with it, to make it really a marketplace of ideas. I mean, he's talking about expanding their video offerings to kind of compete with YouTube. So you're going to be able to post longer videos. He's going to be expanding the character count from 280 to, I believe, 4,000 characters.
Oh my!
It boils down
wow, that's a blog post.
Yeah, it is a blog post. It's about 500 to 600 words.
Wow.
So he's going to be, and Elon Musk is an innovator, right? So he's going to be doing a lot of different things to make Twitter more attractive for content creators like myself and for people to engage in the public square. So I think as far as activity and engagement goes, it's already seen a huge increase, but I think it's going to rival even, Facebook and some of the others. And I think that's another thing that progressives are afraid of, because if he makes it easier to get your ideas out there and he's not engaging in biased censorship, they're going to be in trouble.
Jeff, what do you think about that? Do you think that if he is able to innovate and really grow the platform, that's going to put some actual pressure on sites like Facebook or YouTube to perhaps revisit how they're handling things?
I think it might, but at the same time, I mean, you still have a lot of true believers at companies like Facebook who think that non-progressive speech should be censored more heavily than progressive speech. But Elon had to buy the company to make a difference and fire half of the staff to do what he's doing with Twitter. So it could place some pressure on Facebook, YouTube, and some of the others. I'm not sure how much that alone will move the needle, but you never know. I mean, if Twitter explodes and does even better than expected, maybe the other companies will say, you know what, if we want to make more money, if we want more engagement, maybe we shouldn't be so politically biased. So there's always a chance, but I'm not really optimistic about that.
Jeff, our colleague Kira Davis, who's African American, you're African American, I'm African American, wrote a story about Ben Carson's name being removed from a high school. But I tell you, this is just political correctness, just run amok. I had a chance to work with Dr. Carson during the presidential campaign, not work with him, but work alongside his campaign in a sense when we were in Iowa. He's the most humble man that you've ever met in your life. And it just bothers me as an African American that we so vilify this man because he doesn't follow the liberal line. I mean, Dr. Carson wasn't like one of the best at his field. He was the best. And that black people can't take pride in that and lift him up is just so disappointing to me.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, for all their preening and posturing about valuing the contributions of Black Americans, that is just further exposes the fact that these people don't care about Black people. They only care about the ones who think the way they do. And to me, it's just as racist as the people that they claim to hate. I mean, even if Ben Carson was a far less progressive, I would still be able to recognize his accomplishments and appreciate him for that.
Exactly.
But these people are incapable of that because they are so consumed with politics. And honestly, it's disgusting. They will demean a Black man just because he doesn't think the way they do. It's absolutely absurd. And it really.
What are they fearful of? What are they fearful of? Why do they don't want Black people to see his achievements and see who he is?
Because, Chris, if they see his achievements and see who he is and recognize the talent and the contributions that he made to American society, they might start listening to some of the stuff that he says.
Can't have that.
They might start listening to some of his ideas and some of his philosophy, and that's the last thing that they want. It's the same reason why they wouldn't put Clarence Thomas in the African American History Museum. Yeah, he made great strides in America, but they don't want people to know about it because they don't want people to read about Clarence Thomas and hear his thoughts on things.
Jeff, you mentioned, you referred to this earlier, that you are a content creator. For those who are not familiar with your work, tell them a little bit more about what you do and what kind of content you're creating.
So obviously I write for Red State. I also write for a site called Liberty Nation. I have a podcast called The Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. You can catch that on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And I just started a new Substack where I do all of my satire work. So if you like some good political humor, you can check out The Smattering on Substack.
Jeff, we're speaking with Jeff Charles. He is a writer, a contributor for redstate.com. Jeff, you are in Texas. And, of course, the border is making big news. You're in Austin, right?
That's correct. I'm in Austin.
Right. And Austin is a very, very liberal city in Texas. We read reports that 2,500 illegals crossed the border in just a 24-hour period. 5 million have crossed over since Joe Biden has become president. Are the liberals in Austin a little bit concerned about being overrun, or what is the talk there?
Yeah, I think we're insulated enough from it. I mean, we're further away from the border, so you're not seeing as much of the impact here. But border towns definitely are feeling the brunt of it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Governor Abbott and the mayor of El Paso was shipping them to other cities that, claim they want them. But I think people in general in Texas are concerned about this because Texas always bears the brunt of this, what I call an invasion. I mean, 5 million people. So, and they're catching like a ton of them, but how many aren't they catching? So I think people in general are concerned about it, especially the ones who are closer to the border.
Jeff, we just got a minute or so left, but I know another topic that's near and dear to your heart is school choice and education. Tell our listeners a little bit more about what you're liking, what you're covering and seeing on that beat.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great things happening, even since earlier this year. I mean, Arizona passed significant school choice legislation. I think, one of the silver linings of the COVID-19 pandemic is parents found out what these teachers are teaching their kids, and they weren't too happy about it. So you see a lot of conservatives taking over school boards in Texas, Florida, and other states. In Texas, we have our next legislative session next year, and you better believe school choice is going to be number one on the docket. So I think Texas has been trying to pass school choice for over a decade. Now they might actually get it passed because there's enough political will for it. So I'm remaining hopeful on that. But yeah, I think there's some good news coming down the pike, even in 2023, for parents who want to be able to choose where and how their children are educated.
Jeff, I want you to look into your crystal ball, and I'm going to ask you two things. One, does McCarthy obtain the 218 votes that he needs to become a speaker? And does the government shut down on December 23rd or December 16th, but they think there's going to be a CR to the 23rd? Will the government be shut down?
I don't think it'll be shut down, or if it does, it'll only be for a while. I mean, the Republicans are going to end up giving in like they always do, and I think we're not going to learn our lesson because Kevin McCarthy is going to be the Speaker of the House.
Well, there you have it. Well, Jeff, we really appreciate you. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I got one more question, and this is for the both of you. You know, a lot of conservatives, especially at the end of the year, they want to use the budget and all of this to try to cut spending, which I'm for. And a lot of them see that this is the only real leverage that we have is to shut down the government. We've done this 2 or 3 times, and it just seems every time that we do this, the Republican Party seems to get the short end of the stick, and we're blamed for it. What do we do? I mean, that's our only leverage, but we lose when we use that leverage, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the only thing that the Republican Party can really do, and this is more of a long-term focus, is get their stuff together, start getting in candidates that actually want to balance the budget and deal with our debt, and then we won't have to worry about shutting down the government. But that's a long-term strategy. I mean, shutting down the government, you're right, it never works in Republicans' favor. So if they actually want to do something about this, then they need people in office who don't just pay lip service. Because I don't believe for a second that most Republicans in Congress actually want to deal with the budget. But the voters have to get people in office. They have to show up during the primary seasons and get in actual candidates who want to make a difference.
Yeah. All they have to say is Republicans want the United States to default in their government on their debt obligations, and that seems to be the winning formula, Susie.
Yeah, well, we've got to do better job at playing the messaging game then.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what I think. I mean, the bottom line is, if you want people to see things your way, then you've got to be more persuasive.
Yeah, it's just such a catch-22. Because, like I said, I don't have a problem with shutting the government down to cut the spending, but it just seems we never win that argument because the Democrats seem more willing to play chicken to default on the debt, and we're not because we're responsible, and we end up losing that. I don't know what our options really are, to be honest with you.
I think they need to consult more with you, Chris.
No, they don't.
Yeah, get Chris Arps in there. Jeff.
There you go.
We'll
Jeff,
really be in trouble then.
Jeff, you mentioned you've got your Substack, The Smattering, but where else can people find your work and look up and follow along with what you're doing?
Yeah, you can check me out on social media on Twitter at Jeff on the Right. I warn you in advance, I get a little crazy.
He
and
does.
Equals satire. Yes. So Twitter at Jeff on the Right. That's mainly where I am on social media, but I'm also on Instagram, same handle, at Jeff on the Right.
And, of course, you can find his fine writings at redstate.com, and they are well edited, I'm sure. So, Jeff.
Very well edited.
Susie, ask him the question that you asked me.
Who's your favorite copy editor? Chris failed that test. Chris failed that test once.
No.
I had never met Susie before in person. I'd never met you before in person at that time, did I?
Yeah. Yeah, so he didn't know why I was asking that question.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, Go ahead.
While I'm talking to you, my favorite copy editor is you.
Absolutely.
Now, that might change if it's Jen in the room.
I totally get that. She's the managing editor. She's everybody's favorite. So we really appreciate you joining us today, Jeff. It's been great talking with you, and I'm sure we'll plan on having you back again soon. You have a great rest of your day. And folks, you stick around. We will be back right after this with more on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International. Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646. 26 minutes southbound 55 between the 44 split and 270. More volume southbound 55 between routes M and Z. Accident westbound 44 ramp to southbound 270 has been cleared. There's an accident eastbound 44 at Six Flags. Accidents southbound 270 south of 44 and southbound 270 south of Gravois. You're crawling southbound 141 between Gravois Bluffs and Romaine Creek. Accident westbound West Watson at Lindbergh, and an accident westbound 70 ramp to Route A. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off in the morning. Very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Listen to this noise coming out of the White House.
Live and local.
We need to get the message to people who are not being helped by Democrats.
Ron DeSantis showed people the back of his hand.
This is News Talk STL.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, it's Tony, and as we get ready to start a new year, all of us here at News Talk STL are so thankful for the amazing growth we've seen in just a year and a half since starting the station, and we love working with great local businesses like Eggers Heating and Air Conditioning, Rockwood Charcoal, and Zero Res that have all become a part of our family of advertising partners. If your business is interested in becoming a part of the News Talk STL family, just send us an email to info@newstalkstl.com. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays from your friends here at News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
You know, Kimberly Gardner doesn't seem to like following the rules, and on Wednesday's program, we're going to hear from one of the lawyers who's actually holding her accountable.
Morning starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
She's simply awesome.
Welcome back, folks. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on News Talk STL. I am Susie Moore filling in today for Tim Jones. We've got Chris Arps here as well, and I understand we've got a caller on the phone, right, Stel?
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Let's say hello to Ray. Ray, how are you?
Hi, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Hello.
What's on your mind?
Wild Life, Ray?
I'm sorry.
Is this wild? Okay.
No, I live in Arnold.
I'll shut up. Okay.
I have a question for the magical mind of Susie.
All right.
She's a semi-legal expert, or maybe a major legal expert, one or the other. And this law that the international crime boss just signed, Biden, that legalizes interracial marriage. Now, if you go back and preface, I mean, interethnic marriages or multi-ethnicity marriages have been legal since the late 60s. So doesn't this interracial marriage law that he just signed legalize bestiality?
Oh, boy. You know, that's a loaded question, Ray. I have not read the text of the law itself, so I don't know that it references anything along those lines. It's
interracial, and all humans
right,
are a single race.
Right. I get where you're going with that, and I think that's a you know, you might want to point out there should be some clear definitions in the law at a minimum, even if you are a proponent of it. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's an argument. There was a guest on last week that was talking about that. You know, there's only one race. It's the human race.
Right.
Yeah. And the rest of it is just skin color and melanin, that sort of thing. Yeah, no, that's a fair question. And honestly, I mean, obviously, there's not been a big push in the United States to go against the Supreme Court holding from years and years ago. But I guess they felt this was a priority.
Yeah, it seems kind of odd.
Well, there's a lot that seems kind of odd these days, right, Ray?
Oh yeah.
Ray,
which
frequency are you? Ray, which frequency are you listening to us on? 101.9 or 94.1?
101.9. You can't get 90. The other one down here.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Arnold.
When I go visit my son in Wentzville, then I listen to the other one. But
Perfect.
I'm on the south side.
Well, Ray, we certainly appreciate you listening. Really appreciate you calling in and getting your feedback. And I think that's a fair question. If you want to have a good discussion about it, let's define our terms and be clear about it.
Yeah.
And you're the lawyer. You're the legal expert.
I try. Thanks a lot, Ray. We appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ray.
Okay, bye.
You know, the president did sign the Respect for Marriage Act today. He had a really busy schedule today, Susie. You know,
You keep up
take
with
a look
that.
at his. Yeah, I took a look at his schedule today, and at 9:00, the president had his daily presidential briefing, and then he had a nap all the way to about 3, and then he signed the Respect for Marriage Act in the Oval Office. So he had nothing on his schedule from 9 to 3.
Okay, so you interpret that as nap time.
I do, don't you?
That might be fair.
Do you really think Joe Biden is at the Resolute desk signing papers and working hard, and aides are coming in and out handing him papers?
You just never know.
No.
Just never know. Yeah, so you're right, though. The law was signed into law today. There was a big celebration about it. And, I think it's something that we could probably talk about for about an hour. But the biggest concern I think many on the right have is not that gay marriage or that interracial marriage are illegal, but that having it codified the way it's been codified will now be turned around and used as a weapon against religious organizations who may oppose gay marriage. So, I don't think we've seen the last of this. I understand where that concern is coming from.
I agree. Susie, I don't know if this is lightening it up. This is more weird more than anything, but I want to get your views on this. This is in the Daily Mirror, an article about the artificial womb facility.
Oh boy.
Where parents can pick their baby's traits. It says science fiction is about to match up with reality as the world's first artificial womb facility has been announced, where you'll be able to choose your baby's characteristics from a menu. Ectolife, the brainchild of the Berlin-based Hashem Al-Galil, a biotechnologist and science communicator, is a concept based on over 50 years of groundbreaking scientific research. And if you see the picture, it's like they have this baby in this like little transparent bubble thing, and I guess it grows in that for 9 months, and they call you and say the baby's born, come pick it up. I guess I don't know how that exactly works.
The wave of the future. I'll tell you what, Chris. Here's why I don't think we're going to see that happen anytime soon. You want to know why?
Okay, why?
Because that would completely undermine the abortion industry.
You're right. You're right.
Hey, it looks like we got it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, but it says they in theory they said they'll be able to grow 30,000 babies a year in their lab, so they can make up for the abortions by growing babies.
Well, I understand, but the abortion industry may not like that. That's my point.
That's true.
We've got another caller here, Chris.
All right.
Hey, Tim, what's going on?
Well, just had a quick question. Good evening.
Hey, Tim.
I just said that there's 168 volunteers, I believe, on the board that chooses the votes for the head of the RNC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, is there any way for the general public to weigh in with those volunteers to influence that vote? Because otherwise it seems like a bureaucracy.
Right. No, that's a really good question. And the short answer to it I'm going to give you is this. You first have to figure out who the RNC volunteers for your state are, and then you want to get a hold of them. Chris, you may have some more insight into that given your consultant work.
Yeah, most definitely. Harmeet Dillon, who was running for RNC chair, I saw her down at these meetings. And when she found out that my wife was on the Missouri State Committee, she already had an interest, and I'm not going to say that. But she instantly, talked to her and told her, could you talk to this person and this person? I need their support. So what needs to happen is the ground roots activists need to contact their state committee person and their central committee person and let them know that you want to see a change, and they will funnel that up the chain. As I said earlier in the show, it looked like Ronna was going to head to re-election, but over the past few days, a lot of these state committees have rescinded their support for her. So Harmeet has a chance. We've got till January 7th, I think it is, until the vote. A lot of grassroots groundswell could put her in the seat.
Yeah, so definitely reach out to your GOP members, your local members. They can put you in touch with the right people and how to get that message to the RNC volunteers who can actually make that decision.
Thanks for listening, Tim.
All right.
Thanks,
Hey,
Tim.
thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I thought you.
Yeah, we both took that breath. Well, okay, you know what? I'm going to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. We talked about Kevin McCarthy and his retaining the speakership. What do you think? How do you see that finally playing out?
Like I said earlier, I think what's going to happen is, because what everybody is saying, okay, you don't like Kevin McCarthy, great, but who are you going to replace him with? There is no consensus person to replace them with. I hope that the 5 people that are holding out will see that this is creating complete chaos for the Republicans taking over at the House, taking over the House. We don't need that. And what I hope, Susie, is if these people, if they can't vote for Kevin McCarthy, then just vote present or don't show up. You can tell your constituents back home you didn't vote for him, and we have him as speaker. Or just vote for him and just hold his feet to the fire. But either way, this needs to be resolved.
That's what I think I would do is, pick my pet issue and go to him or his people and, whoever's brokering these deals and say, look, this is of great importance to me. If you can promise me we're going to be focusing on this and, give it some time on the floor, then you'll have my vote and, you got my backing. I think that's the smart way to do it.
Yeah. And I think if he moves with this motion to vacate, and like I said, he doesn't want I should know exactly what it is, but he wants to lower the threshold in some way so that they don't have as much power to remove him, but that motion to vacate is still there. That seems to be something that he is willing to negotiate on. And, the people that are holding out, no, this guy has been wanting to be speaker since like 2012 or something when Boehner was pushed out. He wants this job, and they're going to exact a pound of flesh from him to get it. It's just how much flesh is he willing to give?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's also going to be interesting to see Nancy Pelosi not in a leadership role.
It'll be good just to not see her, period. Yeah, let's say that. It's good to see her, period.
Amen, brother.
Oh,
have you heard or read about the excerpts from her daughter's documentary that they did on her? They released it. They're playing it up that during the COVID hearings, she was washing dishes and was doing laundry, and Paul was in the kitchen while they were having a press conference with Pence or having a call with Pence on the COVID commission, and she put it on mute, and she said something, said, "I don't agree with this." Then she put the phone on mute and she said to her daughter, "Am I being a bitch?" And she's like, "Oh, well, that's okay," and then unmuted it and stuff. So it's a total puff piece for her. I just found that kind of interesting.
Well, wait, so you're telling me that a documentary done by the daughter of the subject of the documentary is a puff piece for the subject?
Can you imagine that?
Who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk it?
Just humanizing old Nancy for us. God love him.
That's a hard thing to do.
Well, folks, we appreciate you listening to News Talk STL. Stick around. When we come back, we'll be talking to Doug Kander of the Merchants Payments Coalition and the National Association for Convenience Stores. And then after that, David Stokes, and then Chris's Corner. No, not Chris's Corner, just David Stokes. So we appreciate you tuning in and listening to us on News Talk STL. This is the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Susie Moore and Chris Arps have been here with you.
Hey, call me Tim. It's okay.
Call you Tim. You're listening to us on 101.9 and 94.1 FM. Welcome home.
News, analysis, opinion.
USA, USA. That's a big game, man.
President Xi is really losing control.
People in China didn't ask me about people mowing each other down in a mall.
This is News Talk STL.
It is their responsibility.
Hate is a metastasizing agent.
We're all keeping a close eye on this.
Illegal immigration is crazy right now.
This United States is not being overrun.
News Talk STL.
It is a crisis at the border without question.
And newstalkstl.com.
Steph's Pizza. You know the name. They're famous for St. Louis-style pizza, appetizers, salads, pastas, and even party platters. Steph's Pizza. Just the name makes your mouth water. 4 great locations in St. Peter's on Jungerman, on Elm at 370 in Zumbell, on Winghaven Boulevard next to MasterCard, and in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road. Tonight is a good night for Steph's Pizza. Check them out at stephspizza.com and find out why everyone is going to Steph's Pizza.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
There was an earthquake. It was in between 2007 and 2009. And I was up at 4 in the morning, whatever, had my laptop up on the counter. I'm drinking some coffee. And all of a sudden our bird, our parrot, Larry Bird, he was green. We had to call him Larry Bird. What do you, right? He starts squawking and his feathers are flying around the cage. And I said, Larry, what's the matter? And then I felt the rumble.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
This hour from townhall.com, I'm Keith Peters reporting. President Biden is cheering the latest reports showing a drop in inflation for the 5th month in a row. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Consumer prices rose 7.1% in November from a year ago, and that was down from 7.7% in October. President Biden welcomed the report, even as American households continue to face economic pressures.
Make no mistake, prices are still too high. We have a lot more work to do, but things are getting better. Headed in the right direction.
The president pointed to falling gas prices and lower food costs as bright spots in the economy. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Stellantis, the new name for the former Fiat Chrysler, is recalling about 1.4 million Ram pickup trucks worldwide. Correspondent Rita Foley reports on why some of those pickups are being recalled.
The problem is the tailgates may not close completely and the cargo could fall out onto the road. These are Ram 1500, 2500, and 3500 pickups from the 2019 through 2022 model years. Dealers will inspect the tailgate striker alignment and adjust it if it's necessary. In the meantime, Stellantis, the company that used to be called Fiat Chrysler, says owners should make sure they secure any cargo in the beds.
A massive storm is blowing across the country. An area stretching from Montana into western Nebraska and Colorado was under blizzard warnings, and the National Weather Service said that as much as 2 feet of snow was possible in some areas of western South Dakota and northwestern Nebraska. Ice and sleet were expected in the eastern Great Plains. In the south, a line of thunderstorms that moved across North Texas and Oklahoma in the early morning hours brought tornadoes, damaging winds, hail, and heavy rain. On Wall Street, the Dow by 103 points. The Nasdaq rose 113. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call Select Quote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. Select Quote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
A bill tied to the January 6th Capitol.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Showers, even some thunder throughout the evening. It's going to be a wet evening tonight. Overnight, the rain tapers off. In the morning, very mild, 50 degrees. The cold air is really lagging behind, so we squeeze out one more mild day. Wednesday, a high of 55, but mostly cloudy. Chance for a couple showers Wednesday, too. We'll dry things out Thursday, though, for a colder day. 40 for the high on Thursday. Mostly cloudy skies, even colder into the weekend. That's the latest First Alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
For $1 a day, if any covered appliance breaks in your home, we guarantee to fix or replace it. All makes and models, washers, dryers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and more. Guaranteed to be fixed or replaced for $1 a day. Call the Home Service Club now for free information.
800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. 800-399-3701. That's 800-399-3701.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind. Like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Or that time you forgot to roll up your windows in the car wash.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a remote control would have come in handy then. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome. But prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Life doesn't come with a remote control. Yikes! So you're on your own with the wasps. You have the power to take control of prediabetes. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
What happens next?
There's more Twitter files that were released over the weekend.
Happens right here.
The media's silence on the Twitter files is shameful.
The media's not going to like it, and they're going to try not to cover it.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you could put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk STL. This is Susie Moore filling in for Tim Jones, and I've got Chris Arps here with me as well. Chris, you wrote an article recently at Red State that had to do with a very interesting topic, one I was not familiar with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it did. Well, I'll tell you, the November inflation numbers came out today, and as you can expect, they're horrible. November marked the 19th consecutive month in which inflation rose 5%. You look at all of the numbers with food, up 13.8%, energy prices 42.7% since Joe Biden has become president. Natural gas prices have increased 42%. And, you know, all of that eats away at our pocketbooks. And I came across an article about a bill about credit card swipe fees and how those fees are adding up to thousands of dollars to consumers every year. And there is a monopoly within the credit card industry with those fees. And we've got Doug Cantor from the National Association of Convenience Stores. He's the general counsel, and he's going to talk about it with us.
Welcome in, Doug. How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, Doug, how are you?
How are you? I'm good.
Fantastic. You know, I am a free market guy. I'm pro-business, all of that. And a lot of people were kind of surprised that I wrote an article that seemed to be trying to limit business profits and things of that nature. Tell us about your article that you wrote, where I got this information.
So we're a free market industry and association. Convenience stores, most of them across the country, are small businesses, and we work with all those Main Street businesses you can think of: restaurants, grocery stores, movie theaters, you name it. And all of them are getting crushed by these high credit card fees because that's not a free market. And so Roger Marshall of Kansas has taken the lead here on a bill that is actually bipartisan too, and Senator Durbin of Illinois is working on it with him. But all it does is say, hey, you need to have some competition here and have an actual free market, because we don't have one today.
Doug, you mentioned this is bipartisan, and that's kind of a rarity these days, it seems, in D.C. But is this something that it looks like they'll be able to get across the finish line? And if so, is that something that would be happening before the end of the year or in the new Congress?
This is something they'll get across the finish line. The only question is when, not if, this will happen. Because when you look at it, not only is it bipartisan and attracting support from folks who have very different politics, as you know, from Senator Marshall and Senator Durbin, but they all recognize Main Street has seen their fees in 2021 were up over 26% from the year before. Their credit card fees this year are up over 27% from what they were last year. So that just is not sustainable, right? Main Street businesses can't take that degree of pain. So this will pass. You know, some of when it will pass just depends on the vagaries of the congressional calendar, which who can predict that?
Fair point.
Exactly. So, Doug, what is the excuse that the credit card companies are using for jacking up these fees?
So they will throw anything out there they can to try to scare people and say, oh, they need these high fees for security. Oh, it's making consumers' lives better, all that kind of stuff. The bottom line, actually, is that we have this weird system where the two big card companies, Visa and MasterCard, who have 83% of the market, set the prices the big banks charge Main Street retailers. So Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all those big banks that are supposed to be competing with each other in the free market and setting their own prices don't. They say, we'll all charge the same thing, whatever Visa and MasterCard tell us. And when that happens, a predictable result is the fees just go up.
Right. Doug, how is it?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, how did we get to that point where those basically Visa and MasterCard have that stranglehold on things and enable this sort of monopolistic type situation?
Well, interestingly, decades ago, the big banks all got together. Visa actually started as Bank AmeriCard, but they all got together and said, look, let's do this together, essentially form an association of all these banks, and we'll roll out these cards nationally. And people were pretty happy with that. Understandable. You could go travel to another part of the country, use the card. That was great. But what nobody saw are these fees on the back end that were getting essentially price fixed by Visa and MasterCard on the other end. And because nobody saw it, it just kept going out there, right? I mean, even now, when you talk to most people, they really don't have any idea that the store where they shop